Maybe Ruth wants to join. Hi, I'm Courtney. This is Something Positive for Positive People, episode 4, or 5. Technically, there's a bonus episode. This will be 4, and the other one will just be called bonus episode. And I am here with
Gino.
And
Kat.
Hi, Gino and Kat. All right, so you two are dating.
Yes.
Correct.
How long have you been together?
We've been together.
I like how you look at him.
We've been together for over 2 years. Next year will be 3 years. I'm assuming I got that right.
You did. Gold star. Gold star.
All right, and tell us a little bit about yourself. Just age, race,
All right.
demographic, career field,
Gotcha.
condition.
I am 35 years old. I live in Missouri. I am.
You live in misery?
Yeah, at times it can be misery. I am Hispanic. My dad's Mexican. My mom's Caucasian, and those two made me. So,
And what is your condition?
I am HSV positive.
All right. And Kat?
My name's Kat. I'm 28 years old. I live in Missouri, not misery. Talk about that later.
I always pronounce it, like, whenever I'm telling someone, I'm like, Missouri. They're like, where? I'm like, Miss Our Eye. Like, that's how you spell it, that place.
It's like St. Louis, and they're like, "Oh, okay, I got you."
Yeah, right?
Like it's like the only. It's kind of like the Chicago of Illinois.
Yeah.
Like if you say if you're from Illinois, then everyone thinks you're from Chicago,
Mm.
which is really annoying
Yeah. It is.
because there's a whole big state to it.
Yeah, there's people from, like, Quincy and Springfield. Oh, I didn't know that Springfield from The Simpsons was actually, like, Springfield,
Illinois.
Had
Yeah.
no idea until I was 27.
Seriously?
I'm 28.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, hey, you learn something new every day.
Yeah.
It happens. I am Caucasian, basic little white girl.
Basic bitch.
It's the first thing that came out of my head. I am also HSV positive as well. And yeah.
And what are your two career fields?
I work in the food service industry.
I work in security, soon to be law enforcement.
Ooh, all right, okay. So, how did you two meet? It's your turn to answer.
Oh,
Kat.
mine?
Yeah,
Okay.
pressure's on.
Well,
I got your back, bro.
I originally lived in Illinois, and I saw that there was a Missouri HSV group, and a couple people that I had met before. They have a monthly dinner, and so I was like, "Oh, I'll come down and I'll hang out and see everybody." And at this time, he was actually with somebody else, so the lady I was with, I just kept looking at her. I was like, "He's really cute. Is he with anybody?" And then somehow, I don't know how, it got back to him that I was talking about him. And then, like a month or so later, I posted some silly status on Facebook about, because I had taken a break from dating, about, oh, I sure know how to pick him. And then we were friends on Facebook at this time, and so he sent me a message, and he's like, well, if you come down to St. Louis, I would date the hell out of you. And so I was like, why not?
It always happens when you're not looking.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And then I came down one weekend and hung out, and then I just kept coming back, and then eventually moved in.
So, how did you find this group that you two met in?
I found the group through Positive Singles.
Okay, shout out to Positive Singles. Next one's gonna cost you.
Yeah. Actually, a friend who lives in Kentucky, the first time he messaged me about having HSV sport groups, I thought it was a scam.
Sport groups or support?
Support.
Oh, okay. I
Support.
got excited. I was like, wait, like softball leagues and stuff?
We did have
We
a
can get
football.
shirts with H's on our chest?
Yeah, we did have like a football game at one of the events, which I did terrible at, but we won't talk about that. The first time he messaged me, I thought it was a scam, and I was like, oh, okay, you know.
You thought it was a scam? What was his message?
He was like, hey, I see that you are HSV positive, and I was wondering if you'd be interested in joining like a support group. And I was like, he's like, it's on Facebook. And so I was like, oh, this is probably just like a way to get personal information. And like, I was like, no, I just ignored him. And then he sent me another message like 3 or 4 months later, and I was like, yeah, I'll check it out. Why not? And then I got added to an Illinois group, and then the rest is history from there.
Okay. And how did you find out about the support group?
I actually found out about it through Positive Singles. There was a girl on there, I don't remember her name off the top of my head, and she had, I think she had posted something in one of the forums, and I contacted her, and she's like, yeah, there's an online group, and this is actually before it became the Facebook group. There was another group. It was the same name, but it was an actual like website, and I was a member of that. And a lot of the people that are in the Facebook group were actually original members from that original group that wasn't on Facebook to begin with.
Gotcha.
If that makes any sense. But that's kind of how I got hooked up with the St. Louis group. Was through Positive Singles. The next one will cost you.
That's 3. We're at 3.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how I found out about it. And then when I met Kat, she's like, "Oh yeah, there's all these other groups," and I'm like, "Huh? Like what? Like what do you mean?" And she's like, "Oh yeah," she's like, "There's all these other groups. There's
Okay.
yeah." She gets temperamental.
It's okay, Ruthie.
But there's all these groups all across the United States. So, I thought we were just like, our thing was just like we were the only ones out there.
So
and then,
special, yeah, just
and then,
you guys.
And then people are like, "Oh no," and they're like, "Oh," and then I met.
Hey, you want to say something? You have something to say? Oh, okay.
Nope.
But yeah, they kind of just opened my eyes to all these other groups, and but that's kind of how I got hooked up.
So how'd you feel when you found out that there was a support group, and then that there were other support groups? Did that make you feel any sort of way? Were you excited? Were you like, "Oh, I'm not alone anymore"?
I was kind of like stoked. I was like, wow. I was like, there's other people. There's there's people like me that live with this skin condition, because that's basically what it is.
I have to say this. I was reached out to by a medical professional who says it's a nerve condition. I haven't done my research yet, but I have to make sure that I say this for her.
Actually, now that you mention that, I did when I was first diagnosed. I didn't do a whole lot of research, but the research that I did find was that, don't quote me, but if I remember right, that HSV2 lives in the bottom part of your spine, and HSV1 lives in the top part.
Well, that's why it's incurable, because it's a nerve disease. So, and then it can go dormant. So it's in the nerves,
Yeah.
but it's kind of like a combination nerve skin disorder. Because my mom was a registered nurse, and she was the first one I told about it. And so she worked for an OBGYN at the time, which was fantastic. But like, even talking to him, he had no idea. Like, he was like, it's one of those things that it's known about, but there's like not, everything's not known about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, real quick, how long have you been diagnosed?
I found out back in February of 2010, right before Valentine's Day. That was, happy Valentine's Day, baby. It was, I had kind of had I knew something was up, and then that's when I found out. So, but the nurse practitioner that was there that told me that I had tested positive, she's like, you're probably a lot like other people that have had it and just didn't know what it was. She's like, you probably just thought it was an ingrown hair or a pimple or something. And at that time, I was what they call manscaping down there, and I would get ingrown hairs, and I just thought it's another ingrown hair. And she's like, So more likely, she's like, you probably had it for a while and just never didn't know it, or you you got it here recently.
Yeah.
So, but I've had it. I've known about it since about 2010.
And how did you respond once you got your diagnosis? Like, what did you do? What was the first thing you did, if you can remember?
I was actually I was actually at work when it happened. Yeah, I was sitting in I was sitting in the break room, and I'm thinking, okay, they're gonna call me, because they told me, they said, if we don't call you, that's good news, but if we call you, then something's up. Well, a day or two had gone by, and I'm like, okay, I'm probably in the clear here. And then all of a sudden, I get the phone call while I'm at work, and I'm like, oh man. And she's like, I hate to tell you this. She's like, but you tested positive for herpes, and after she told me this, I had to go back into work and act like nothing happened. Like it was just a phone call, so I actually, I'm just sitting there trying to eat my lunch, and I'm like, I need to go talk to one of my friends that I worked with, and she was actually in an office, doing some paperwork, and I closed the door, and I just sat there, and she's like, "What's the matter?" And I just start crying. I'm like, I tested positive for herpes, and she's like, "Oh, Gino," she's like, I'm really sorry," and she's like, "You're gonna be okay," and at that time, you're like, I'm not gonna be okay,
Right.
It's the end of the world for you.
Exactly. You have all these emotions going through your head, and so I told her, and then I told another lady that I worked with, and they were really supportive, and they kind of just they just kept telling me, like, it's gonna be okay, you're gonna.
And not a lot of people would tell coworkers.
Oh,
I
I was like a little 16-year-old girl, just telling, gossiping. Like, I told two of my coworkers. I had to go home, and I told my mom, because my mom's a nurse, and I told her, I told my family members. But I found out that the more I told people, and the more I was able to talk about it, the better it was. And it just, it kind of like, I kept hearing in my head, it's gonna be all right, and it was.
Yeah.
But it's just like that first, you when you hear the news, it literally felt like somebody had hit me in the stomach.
Right.
I was sick to my stomach, and I'm like, this isn't happening, and it was tough. It was tough for the first couple of days.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do.
And how was dating for you? Were you in a relationship? Were you single, seeing anyone? What?
I was dating this girl, and actually when I was dating her, she told me that she had HPV, and this is before we had any kind of sexual relations or anything. I was like a lot of people, ignorant. It's like, oh, okay, just gotta wear a rubber, and but then when I found out my diagnosis, she kind of helped me. She helped me, and she's like, it's not the end of the world, and she's like, I have HPV, and so. But I was dating her. The relationship didn't last. But actually, I found out after that, my dating life actually got a little easier. Because about that time, I moved away from my hometown in Illinois and moved to St. Louis. And then when I got to St. Louis, it was like, wow, there's all these people here because of positive singles, there was, within the first, I think the first month I was here, I met this one girl through positive singles, and, we dated for a while, and things didn't work out. But my dating life was, it just seemed like it just seemed like it didn't skip, like I didn't
Like it didn't skip a beat.
skip a beat. You know, I still, you know, I dated two people that were negative, but you know, for the majority of the people I've dated, it sounds like I've dated like a lot of people. But I mean, I just, like I said, I just didn't. My dating life just really didn't skip a beat.
Okay. And for you, Kat? So how did you find out? How long have you been positive?
I've been positive for about 8 years now. Yeah, because I found out when I was 20. So I was home from spring break and I started getting this pain in my hip, and I was like, oh, okay, you know, whatever. And then it was like on the inside of my hip, so then it went from there, like all across, like down there, and so then my mom actually was gonna go to urgent care because she had a cough that she couldn't get rid of. And so I was like, okay, I'll go with her or whatever. And I was like, can I get checked out while I'm here? And as soon as, the nurse came in, she's like, yeah, you have herpes. Just by looking at it, I can tell. And I was like, oh, great. So I was actually, the way that I got it was I was in a relationship, and it wasn't a good relationship at all. It was kind of a little abusive and mostly emotional and verbal. He only hit me once, but he always said that he was clean and that he was a fighter, so that he, he got tested for it regularly, but, with those tests, you have to ask specifically for the herpes test or they won't give it to you. So I did not have that good of a reaction afterwards. Like, I told my mom, and then I was deathly afraid to tell anybody else. I thought,
There's cats here if you can't tell.
Yeah, we have 4 of them, so. But I was deathly afraid to tell anyone because I thought that, that whole stigma of, people who have STDs are dirty and they're sluts and, they'll just sleep with anything that walks, and that hurt for a very, very long time, and I did not have a good dating relationship after that, and it took me a little while to bounce back, and then, I was doing some research, and I found positive singles, and, so, yeah, that was not a fun experience.
Oh. So originally you found out and you felt dirty, shameful, all that stuff. How did you bounce back from that? Did you immediately go back into dating? Or?
Not immediately. I was just too hurt, like, because all the jokes you ever hear about herpes is because someone's a slut or someone's dirty. So, like, I'm an emotional person and that kind of stuff. What are you guys doing down there? Get him,
messing
Ruth.
with this cat.
Get him, Ruth. But some of that stuff kind of hit me kind of hard, and I was going through a bad time, and I legitimately thought that this was the end of my life, and I would never ever, like, find anybody, and that I would be alone forever, and I was legitimately single for about 5 years.
Oh, wow.
After I got diagnosed.
So did you not date at all? I mean...
For about 3 years, I didn't think I could. I would sign up for, like, dating sites, and then I'd be like, no, because I don't want to disclose, and have it, like, thrown in my face and stuff like that, but then about 3 years in, I found positive singles, and I was like, oh, okay, cool, and dated a couple people. Nothing really worked out, and then...
Did they not work out because of your condition, or just because it didn't work out?
It just didn't work out because we were just compatible, and so that wasn't a big deal, and then about 5 years into it, I found the groups.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Oh, wow. Took so long.
It took a while, yeah. And the thing that boggles my mind is that you'll see some people in these groups, like, I got diagnosed last week, and I'm like, what? How are you in the group already? Like,
yeah.
But at the same time, it was like in 2008, 2009 when I got diagnosed. So, even though the internet was a thing, it wasn't as widely used as it is today, and it isn't like, oh, I'll just go to Google and look it up today. Like, so.
Yeah. So, Gino, did you have any idea where you contracted herpes from? Who you contracted herpes from?
No, that's that's something that I do think about, like, like who could have been, but it could have been the first person I had sex with. I could have got it from them, or it could have been second or third. I was, I'll admit that I was not relationship material. I was a typical guy.
You were just a piece of shit.
Exactly. I was a piece of shit. I had. Shut up. I had. I had a few serious relationships, but they would only last for a short period of time, and then I would just be like, okay,
It's kind of not a serious relationship though if it doesn't last very long.
Well,
if you're invested
in my twisted brain, I thought, I'm like, oh, this is this is a serious relationship.
We haven't been together for 2 days.
We've been together for 2 days.
I love you.
I love you too, baby. But who that to me that is. It's not really relevant to me anymore, because I'm not, that part of my life is no more. I've grown up quite a bit from then until now, but I suspect there was one girl. I knew that she had cold sores, and I was like a lot of ignorant people, like, oh, cold sores, yeah, that's not
herpes.
That's not herpes. It's a cold, it's a cold sore.
Nothing.
It's a cold sore. It's like, hey,
like everyone has these.
Yeah, it's like, hey, idiot, that's herpes.
Well, I mean, legitimately, almost everyone has had some form of herpes family, like chickenpox, shingles, like cold sores.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's it could, hell, I could have got it from sharing a glass with someone.
Wait, is that a real thing? I always
No.
thought that was bullshit.
No, that's bullshit. That's the same, because people who think that you can get it off a toilet seat, it dies as soon as it leaves your body. Like, if it's on an inanimate object, that virus is dead.
Well, the reason why I say it is because one of my best friends back home, he got HSV1. And his cousin, they were passing back and forth a cigarette, and that's how he said he got it. So, and I'm like, okay, and it's like I said, I'm not a medical expert.
Talk. You don't have to bite. This is free, open discussion. You can vent, let it out. You look like you really want to say something.
No, because a lot of the time the jokes I hear, it's like, if people have just a legitimate cold sore, or even like a zit where I work. They're like, oh, you got herpes, don't drink after them. And I just want to be like, listen up, motherfuckers. That's not how that works. Like, I get kind of agitated, and they're like, well, how do you know? I was like, because I'm super smart, that's why. So
I just knew you were going to say you told them, and everyone was just like...
there is one guy at work who knows. Because we were because there was one day that someone had said something about
So no women
herpes.
at your job know?
No, because the women at my job are just complete and utter cunts.
Oh, wow.
Sorry.
We're not editing anything either, so that's staying in.
Woo!
So, in terms of dealing with your diagnosis, if both of you could take how your life is now and being the cat in the Gino you are now, go back in time and tell your newly diagnosed self something, in that state that you were in when you found out and you were just disgusted and you were a teenage girl, like, what would you tell yourself to bounce back from that negative emotion?
I think I would just tell myself that, just like everything else, this too shall pass. It may seem like the end of the world, but like everything else, you just gotta give it time. You gotta accept it yourself. You gotta remember that this is just a part of you. This does not define you. This is kind of just a little extra sprinkle on the top of the awesome cupcake that is you. Like, that's the, like, it sounds so cheesy, but you have to think about it that way, because I remember for the first couple of years I was just so obsessed with, like, feeling like absolute crap and like wasting those years, like when I could have just been moving on and like putting that agitation and putting that aggression towards working on, you know, being able to do stuff better, being able to cook better, being able to run better. Like, it was just so much time that was wasted that I can't get back. So, go ahead.
Boy, I don't know how to top that. I don't know if it's just me or my like personality, but you know, if I were to go back and tell myself and be like, it's gonna be fine, and
that's what everyone was telling you at the time.
And you know what?
It's gonna be fine.
I heard that constantly, and I bought into it, and I believed it because it was. I remember just being, you know, like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? You know, for like a week, but then like I bounced back like that. Like I just was like, oh well, you know, I've got it. I'm not, you know, I'm gonna be the same person, you know.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, I have to, you know, be cautious about, you know, who I'm with, you know, but like I just like I didn't dwell on it. I accepted it as like I have herpes, deal with it. And I did.
Yeah.
There was a couple of times where I'm like, oh man, this sucks, and you know, I kind of, you know, I drank a lot, and I started to realize like this isn't helping.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I got into, even though I was feeling okay about it, I got into some counseling, and you know, even the counselors were like, you know, it's not that, you know, it's not the end of the world, you know, you're and it was, and like I just, like I said, like I didn't go through like all those emotions that like a lot of people go through, like the anger, the guilt, and I was like, yeah, I was pissed off about it, but I was like, all right, let's move forward.
Yeah.
And that's how
I
did
did
it.
not do that.
I
That's
did.
For sure.
One common thing that I come across is something that helps people cope easily and faster is by knowing that they're not alone, being able to seek out some sort of a support group or counseling, therapy, because it isn't the STD itself that's such a pain for most people, because there are people who go through excruciating pain once they realize, oh my God, that's what this is. But the emotional and mental...
It's mostly the stigma, from what I found.
Yes.
That has a lot of effect on people. And like with the groups that I'm in, she's just gonna bite her tail right in front of you. That's what she's gonna do.
Like I thought she'd want to get rubbed or something. She just jumps up here to be
Very.
seen.
She's just like, hey, I'm right here, but you can't touch me because I'll bite you.
Is it because we're just talking into the microphone and all of our attention is in this area, and she's like, hey, give me some of that attention?
Sometimes.
Okay, back.
Sometimes.
The stigma.
It's just like the stigma, like, because some of the girls because there's a ladies group, and sometimes they'll post stuff about, you know, feeling dirty and like, but having all those other people who are in that same boat as you, like, you're like, they're in the same boat as me, and then you'll see them post like 2 months later, like, oh, I'm in a relationship, and then 3 months later, oh, I'm moving in with my boyfriend, oh, now we're married, and now we're having a baby. Like, having those people with you, even if you never meet them in real life, having them like go to a sounding board where you're a tiny bit anonymous except for the people that you know, is the biggest tool that I think that brand new people who are diagnosed need, because knowing that you're not alone in this world is the biggest help to get you through anything in the world.
Yeah. Okay. So you guys are big animal lovers.
We are.
Oh, what is that? Oh, they're fighting.
That's a Grace.
They do not get along with each other.
Yeah.
Grace doesn't like the new ones.
Do you guys have any like nonprofits or anything that you support or advocate for? SPCA or I don't know. Sounds like Positive Singles is like the advocate.
I think they should be like supporting us at this point. I mean, every time I go home, I donate to like one of our local animal shelters. So.
Animal shelters. So I mean, you can give them a shout out or something. I don't know. I just want to be nice and give back to nonprofit community for.
It's called Caesar, Small Illinois, or Central Illinois Small Animal Rescue. It's like 5 minutes from my house. They take care of, because my dad has 5 dogs as well.
How do y'all have so many animals?
It's a genetic trait,
That's
okay?
like taking in kids.
I get it from my mother. Like, that's how I got my quote-unquote adopted brother, because he needed a place to stay, and he was with my friend in high school, and then we just kind of adopted him, and so we have a hard time saying no to animals or people who need help or need a home. So.
That's good. You guys are awesome people. Seriously. So last thing, how, if it has having herpes changed your life at all? If it has, I mean, has it kept you from doing things that you had originally set out to do?
No. Herpes did not. It didn't change my life per se. Like, it just, like.
Did your cat just bark?
It sounds like it sometimes.
Sounds like
Oh my god, this is awesome.
Like, I mean, like herpes didn't change like the way I think or the way I do things, how I put my socks on in the morning or anything like that.
It changed how I put my underwear on for the first few days.
Well, I don't know.
It changed the type of underwear that I put on for the first few days.
I don't know if it was me, but did you guys constantly wash your hands after you
Yes.
you go to the
All the
bathroom?
time.
You're just like, oh my god,
I don't want to get. I don't want to go blind.
Yeah.
You know, or, like it got to the point where I was. I can't believe I'm gonna say this. It got to the point where I was taking like paper towel to go to the to pee, so I didn't have to touch it.
That's all that shit you read online. Like that's why. That's one of the reasons
Yeah.
I'm doing this as well, because what you read online is, I mean, factual to an extent, but it
depends
doesn't.
on where you're reading it,
Yeah.
though, as well. Because a lot of that stuff is just opinion-based.
And it's not like, you know, when you go to a restaurant, you check it out online. You see the best reviews are really short and sweet. Oh, good food, good prices. I had this, I liked it. But the bad reviews are in so much detail.
Or, like, a paragraph.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so you get more of the negative feedback, negative responses, because the people who had a good experience and are going on about their way.
Right.
So I believe
They're
that
not
it's-
focusing on the good. They're just going on about their
Yes.
life.
And so, you know, being able to do this and speak to people from their real life experience is just one way to get that information that isn't out there. And I appreciate both of you guys taking the time to sit down with me and share your story, invite me into your home and share your margarita pizza with me, and I ate like half of it. And let me play with your cats and your dog. Where is the dog?
She's outside.
Oh, okay. Well, is there anything that you guys would like to leave the listeners with? So, let's say you're
I kind of want to answer that last question. I actually kind of do believe it has changed my life.
Because you met Gino.
Because, number one, because I met Gino.
Oh, you were supposed to say that. She gave you the
And that's why I was like, hand on the hip, staring at
Yes,
you.
but you guys cut me off, and we kind of
No.
we kind of just went off in this other.
Whatever.
No, well, I mean, honestly, like I said, it hadn't changed my life, like how I do things. If I didn't have herpes,
I wasn't speaking or anything.
I wouldn't have met my lovely girlfriend, and that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted to say, and then I got
smooth voice on for you and everything.
I got so rudely cut off.
Well, not just, the fact that I would have never met him, but I would have never met some of my best friends because of it, because of the groups. I would have never become as strong of a person. I would have never been able to make it through, what trivial little things I thought were life-ending, and then I got this. And I was like, if you make it through something that's so stigmatized and so end of the world seeming, you made it through pretty much anything. And I mean, having this and being in the groups, and there's so many different kind of groups, like, there's ones for just women, there's ones for people who are into fitness, there are ones for people who are into different kind of lifestyles, there are...
Oh, the lifestyle?
Yeah, like
book club?
Not book club, no.
Yeah.
Like there's
Definitely
like
not
alternative lifestyles, you know, like people who are polyamorous, people who are you know, people who are just not what you would think of as like a
Is there a basic bitch group?
maybe. There is. Some of my closest friends, we have a group of probably about 20 girls, and I mean, we share everything with each other. Absolutely everything. We share when we're feeling stupid, like when we're feeling sexy, when something big happens to us, when we're scared, when we just need emotional support, when we're about to do something really stupid. And so, I mean, without it, I would have never met these girls. I would have never met Gino. I wouldn't be having this conversation right now, so.
I appreciate you guys sharing that. There was something I was gonna. Oh, so what is that?
What?
I forgot those were up there.
Oh, your butt plugs?
My butt plugs here, but
They're not my butt plugs. I didn't buy them.
So you guys have a normal sex life as well, because that's one thing. People think their sex lives are over.
Oh, no.
I don't know if it's normal, but it's definitely not over.
Good.
Definitely not over.
All right.
I can attest to that. My sex life didn't fall off. It kind of just like
Thank God for that.
went on. Jeez.
Oh man.
But yeah, there's. I mean, if you know people that have herpes, they like to get down and dirty. You know, so you know your sex life is. Doesn't have to be non-existent.
After getting over the initial like kind of shock of being diagnosed and getting into like, you know, just dating normally again, I feel like people who have herpes are a little bit more open-minded because they know what it's like to have a big
A big what? Yeah, good for you, Gino.
No, that's not what I meant. A big, deep, dark secret. That's what I meant to say.
2 points.
Is that its nickname? Big Deep Dark Secret.
Alright, I'm out. Bye. No, but I feel like they're a little more open-minded, so like it's definitely been, you know, gotten to explore a lot more.
Yeah.
And got to do stuff that I probably, if I was in a normal, like, if I didn't have herpes, I probably would be too scared to be like, oh, I want to try this.
So herpes is the spice of life.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Oh, man.
It definitely is.
Well, like I said, you guys were awesome. I appreciate you all taking the time to meet with me and share your story with somebody out there, hopefully, who can benefit from this. Listeners, please like, subscribe, share, spread the word. Not herpes. That was bad. Oh
was
my
cheesy.
God.
So cheesy.
That was pretty funny.
This concludes episode 4 of Something Positive for Positive People with Gino and Kat. The first couple I've had on here, so we're expanding our horizons a little bit.
There we go.
What was I gonna say? I need more interviews. This is the last interview that I have for the show. Kat just ran by. I think he wants to be on the next episode. I think she wants to be on the next one. So you might hear her little meow here and there, some scratching and clawing and growling. But if you or someone you know, specifically in the St. Louis area, just because this is where I am, is interested in sharing their story. Oh, okay.
She's not.
If you know someone in the St. Louis area who's interested in sharing their story, I mean, this is a podcast for all positive people, so not just HSV. I mean, any STD that they have that they're living with and they just want to vent, share their story with the world and hopefully be able to help someone cope better with their own diagnosis, then please have them reach out to me. I can be found on Twitter or Instagram at HOnMyChest. You can follow us there for updates to different shows that are going to be out and keep up with us for whenever the podcast is going to actually be a podcast instead of a YouTube channel. You can also also email me. My email address is Courtney, COURTNEY, WBRAME, BRAME, @gmail.com. Again, that's Courtney W. Brame @gmail.com. If anyone's interested in sharing their story or you have any feedback for the show, feel free to just shoot me a note. I know this is a long outro. Like I said, I'm working on it. Peace heaps. Y'all want to say bye?
Peace out.
Peace out, y'all.
Oh, that was weird.